Hello everyone, welcome back to Ronin's Den. My name's Eric, and we are going to be continuing our look through the mechanics of 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. And in tonight's video, we're going to talk about something that was unique to 2nd edition. You haven't seen this in any other edition of the game, and you'll never see it come back again. Those mechanics being of demi-classes. And tonight we're going to be talking about the Demi-Paladin. What's a Demi-Paladin, you might be asking? And yeah, fair question. They only ever existed in 2nd edition. They didn't need to exist in any of the other versions of the game. So, here's what a Demi-Paladin is. If you remember back when we did our videos on the individual classes, certain classes have species locks on them or racial restrictions, however you want to say it. In addition to alignment and ability score requirements. Paladins had the strictest requirements to join the class. You needed to have a minimum of a 12 strength, a 9 constitution, a 13 wisdom, and a 17 charisma. You also had to have a lawful good alignment, and you had to be a human. You could not be anything other than human and be a Demi-Paladin. So, you get players asking over time, hey, I want to be an elf paladin. Can I do that? Well, rules is written, no. So, when we got the Complete Book of series, and that being the Complete Paladin's Handbook in this case, we were introduced to mechanics that allowed us to make characters that were elves and dwarves and gnomes and half-elves and halflings and be something like a paladin. You weren't exactly a paladin, but you were really, really close. So how did this all work? Well, first of all, got to talk about what is a Demi-Paladin mechanically. A Demi-Paladin is a fighter cleric that gains paladin-like powers from their deity after completing special quests for the church or their deity directly. If, again, you go back to our playlist and you watch the video on what is multi-classing and dual classing, a fighter cleric, you have to be a demi-human character, first of all, which is gnomes, dwarves, halflings, half-elves, elves, and you had to multi-class. Multi-classing in 2nd edition meant you picked 2 or more classes and you advanced them simultaneously. So you traded versatility for slower advancement. At the end of your session, when your DM tallied up all the experience points and gave them to you, you divided them by the number of classes you had and evenly distributed your experience points to those classes. So in the case of the Demi-Paladin, you were a fighter cleric. Say you got 100 experience points at the end of your session. That's 50 points to your fighter class, 50 points to your cleric class. And with the asymmetrical leveling, that meant there could be times where you're a level 2 fighter and a level 1 cleric or a level 3 fighter, level 2 cleric, and, sometimes you'll even out as well. In order to be a Demi-Paladin, you also had to be, demi-human because multi-classing. After that, you had to satisfy all of the other basic requirements of being a paladin. You had to have that minimum strength of 12. The 9 in constitution, the 13 in wisdom, the 17 in charisma. And you had to abide by all of the restrictions that paladins had to deal with during play. Tithing their income, the requirement to have restricted numbers of magical items, 10 maximum, only hiring lawful good hirelings and henchmen. For all intents and purposes, you took on all the burdens of being a paladin without being a paladin. Now, while you're adhering to all of that stuff for the paladin, you're multi-classed. So this is where, being a demi character, it's kind of a trade-off. I think that demi characters, demi paladins, demi rangers, demi bards could be in some situations more powerful than a basic paladin or just like the base class, even though things were a little wonky, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. So when you're multi-classed, you also get to pick the best things of each of your character class. So fighters have a lot of weapon proficiencies. You get those. Clerics have more non-weapon proficiencies. You take that. fighters start with more money. Great, you get that. And then you look at your saving throws, all of them, your poison, poly, rod, death, spell, and whichever class has the best one, you get to pick that and add it to your character sheet. You get set up with the best possible chance of success throughout all of your levels. Another benefit that Demi-Paladins get over basic Paladins, in my opinion, is when their cleric level advances, they get cleric spells in the same progression that a cleric would. Paladins don't start getting spells till level 9. You do not have that waiting period. You get spells at level 1. You also get to turn undead as a cleric of your level because you're a multi-class fighter cleric. Paladins, they turn undead, but it's of 3 levels lower than a cleric. So there are some trade-offs here. The thing about being a Demi-Paladin is also you don't get all the Paladin abilities right away. So you got to abide by all the Paladin requirements, but you don't get lay on hands, you don't get the immunity to disease, you don't get the bonded mount, you don't get the benefits for the holy sword, at least not at first. The other requirement Demi-Paladins need to satisfy is they must take a kit. It doesn't matter what kit they take. If you want to play as just a basic Paladin type, take the True Paladin. But you could also take the Wormslayer kit, which we just did a video on Wormslayers, which is a Paladin that doesn't really fight the undead as a primary focus. Their thing is all about fighting evil dragons. And then any of the other kits that exist within the Complete Paladin's Handbook, but also the Complete Fighter's Handbook had some kits that were Paladin compatible as well. Things like the Cavalier or the Beast Rider, or then there's the Sky Rider in the Paladin's Handbook. You need to take a kit. That's one of the big things there. Okay, moving on. In order to gain Paladin powers, those being your lay on hands, your immunity to diseases, your bonded mount, whenever you qualify to get new spells of a new level, right? So what I mean by that is when a character, it goes from, when we'll just say 3rd level, we got it on the slide here. When a character reaches 3rd level as a priest and they're able to cast 2nd level spells, they are then given a quest by their deity to go out and complete. If they're successful in this quest, then they get to pick one of the Paladin powers that typically a Paladin would have from level 1 and add it to their character sheet. You don't lose anything. You just get to add a Paladin power to your character sheet. Rules is written. This is usually to be selected by the DM. Me in my games, when the character is able to advance to the point to get one of these quests, my question is, what power do you want? And that's going to be the thing that's going to have me design the quest that you're going to go on to obtain the power. So if you say, hey, yeah, I'm level 3 cleric now, I get to do a Paladin power quest, I want a bonded mount. Cool. We can do that. The quest is then going to go on, and at the end of it, not only do they get the bonded mount of power, but I'm going to give them their mount at the same time. They're going to find their mount through part of that quest line. If it's for, the lay on hands ability, I might have them have to serve as some kind of healer during a major battle, and they learn how to heal by laying on hands. So I'm going to work that into the quests and the campaign as the game's playing. Now, this also means that certain characters are not going to be able to advance and receive all of the Paladin abilities, because in 2nd edition, the other thing to remember is different species, different races, they can only advance to certain levels underneath certain classes. Rules is written. For instance, halflings could only ever reach 8th level as a cleric. Now, 8th level meant that they are only going to be able to get to the point to cast 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th level spells. So they're only going to be able to choose up to 4 paladin abilities. They're not going to be able to get all of them. Something to keep in mind when you're designing your demi-human paladin or your Demi-Paladin. But in my opinion, this isn't really that much of a bad thing, because you can custom tailor your character through advancement and really determine what type of character you want to play as. And there are the rules that are built into the game for advancing demi-humans past their level cap. I use a number of those in different campaigns that I've run over the years. Right now, I'll be honest, I just ignore those level caps. The reason that they're in there is a balancing factor that doesn't really cause an unbalanced play set. It's more of like a way to keep the campaign worlds from being overridden with level 20 elf wizards everywhere. But anyway, I am rambling and being an old man yelling at clouds about that at the moment. So anyway, that is what a Demi-Paladin is. It is a multi-class fighter cleric that through play is able to become something like a paladin when that character that you've chosen, that dwarf fighter cleric, for instance, just wouldn't normally qualify to be a paladin. You can't be a paladin and a dwarf, but you could be a paladin and a Demi-Paladin and a dwarf. And we're going to talk about demi-rangers. We're going to talk about the demi-bards. There are specific classes that those books added in for you to pick when you're making those characters. And in fact, one of the most busted characters in 2nd edition is a dwarf mountain man ranger. And I think that'll be the example we use in that video. But anyway, thank you for joining us here on Ronin's Den. If you could do me a favor, I know I ask this at the end of every video, but it's really helping us get these videos out to people who are looking for this retro 2nd edition content. If you can give us a hit on that like and subscribe, gets these videos out in front of more people who are looking for this kind of stuff. If you're really enjoying this content, you can click that little bell and it'll notify you whenever we upload new content. I try to upload a couple of these videos for 2nd edition throughout the week. We have our bi-weekly game of The Night Below, which happens on an every other Monday basis. We're doing our Welcome to Capiterra Fabula Ultima game on an every other Saturday basis, and we're still doing our class breakdowns on that. We're going to be starting in on the high fantasy. Nope, we finished high fantasy. We're going to be starting the techno fantasy atlas here shortly for that one. And if you're having fun, you have questions, drop them in the comments section. I try to get back to everybody that leaves one. We will catch you next time on Ronin's Den.